I got the call. I was actually asleep in bed probably after midnight. I packed a bag, kissed my fiance. She's crying because the kid's birthday and I'm gonna miss it, you know. And I was out the door. 2 hours later, I was in Burbank and we were getting vehicles ready to move. I just remember being exhausted. That first night up until the evening, we were up for over a day. I had soldiers sleeping, standing up, and I had to like, hey, wake up, you know, so it was brutal.
The National Guard troops arriving now.
When that truck rolled in and the camera was there and I had the extender on the microphone, I said, let's see if we can go talk to this guy. And he was great.
Where are you from?
Burbank. I don't want to talk to you. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I wanted to like switch seats with someone else.
What is your mission? What are your marching orders?
Just to provide support for local law enforcement.
This woman walked past me, flipped me off, tell me I'm killing my people. And I was like, these are my people to the left and right. Like, these are true Americans. Like, this is what we stand for. Not you trying to get a new Coach purse. I mean, some people use George Floyd, some people use the protest as a reason to break the law, and that's not right on any level.
To have the National Guard posted up in front of Santa Monica Pier, it was just wild, you know? That image was crazy. And unfortunately, the Guard wasn't able to get there until everything was done. You know, they got there at night and then they were basically babysitting the buildings. Everything had been destroyed already.
Again, another episode that in my lifetime I prayed I'd never see again. I was a sergeant in 1992. I worked during the riotous days of civil unrest, and I saw National Guard troops. I saw buildings that were looted, just lives that were destroyed. The loss of life, but also the loss of livelihoods as a result of that. And both the curfew, which hadn't been called since that era, as well as the National Guard, I remember how disappointed, how hurt I was that this had spiraled into that circumstance.
My father was pulled over March 3rd, 1991 by several police officers, and he was beaten. He had over 50 plus broken bones, as well as his eye socket, his jawline was completely shattered.
So it starts with the beating of Rodney King being caught on video.
We didn't have cell phones then. There wasn't a citizen out there on the streets recording something like you have today. This was shocking to have this video from somebody's balcony.
In 1992, we had a police chief who was openly racist. A number of people were dying of chokeholds a few years before, and he had a press conference that he was infamous for, where at the press conference he tried to explain to people that the reason why black people were dying of chokeholds is because our veins were different than quote unquote normal people. And so when the video came out, and this is a terrible thing to say, but most of us were happy that there was finally a video. Finally a video.
With such strong ocular proof of wrongdoing, smoking gun proof, everyone thought there was going to be a conviction.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Lawrence M. Powell, Timothy E. Wind, Theodore J. Brasino, Stacy C. Kuhn, not guilty.
When the Simi Valley jury acquitted the 4 officers, America's promise of impartial justice seemed flagrantly flouted to many Angelenos.
So there's the thought, these officers of course are going to be convicted because it's actually on video. When they're not, then years and years and years of anger pours into the street and we see actual riots for days and days. And that continues years later with the O.J. Simpson case, with jurors saying years later that part of the reason that they did not convict O.J. Simpson is because of Rodney King.
A lot of trust and confidence in the jury process, in the criminal trial process was lost.
I can't perceive or understand how you have a jury of 12 that find the police not guilty of hurting Rodney King the way that they did. How could you, I mean, what justification is that? You guys were actually using deadly force on this man, and then you get off. And they tore LA apart.
I've been here for 30 years. I was a young rookie reporter during the 1992 riots, and I was out there on the streets. I was out there in the middle of the looting.
I remember the liquor store across the street from our apartment complex being looted. I remember Reginald Denny getting put out his truck and beat.
This is attempted murder.
I remember all of it.
Rodney King and George Floyd are parallel to each other, but they're not incidents that you can see on their own. You have to see around it. Latasha Harlan's, the shooting of that little girl at the liquor store, I think that took it over the edge. And there were others. There's never just one incident.
We're asking people to simply stop killing us.
Here's where the parallel is interesting. This time around, you didn't see South Central destroyed. People went outside of South Central, which is why some people say it stopped really quickly.
You can draw a direct line from what happened to Rodney King to what happened to George Floyd. And I'm sure that 99% of cops who watched both of those things were upset, disgusted, angry, because it tarnishes everybody's badge.
In the 27-year gap between the Rodney King trial and where we are now, are the necessary reforms implemented? No. I want to be clear, we have improved. There are more people of color in law enforcement, but we still have the same problems. The same problems. They still exist.
In so many ways, we seem to continue to wake up to this racial injustice Groundhog Day, don't we? Again and again, we see the same sickening fact pattern, and that's been since '92. It has continued unabated. So whatever interventions that we have tried haven't been effective. Whatever interventions we've come up with, whether they are technological ones in the form of body cameras, or policy-driven ones like implicit bias training, community policing, de-escalation training, right? All of those interventions and more were there in Minneapolis.
It seems like right when, we're moving forward as a nation, then we hear another Rodney King, we hear another, George Floyd. It's like, it's just a hashtag with a different name.
No, they're fine.
They're good.
Oh gosh.
Oh
gosh.
no. They're protecting the store. Their looters are over there. They're putting this lady in handcuffs.
Christina Gonzalez, they're on the ground in Van Nuys. Christina?
We had been assigned to cover a protest. We had been at a protest at City Hall. There's a City Hall in Van Nuys. After being at this protest for a while, live, we started noticing and hearing in the scanner that people were moving away, groups of different people, and they were breaking into the big five of the street and liquor stores and so forth. We are following our group of looters. Let me show you their latest. This is a big five sporting good on Van Nuys. So my camera person, Joe Prince, and myself decided to just start walking and seeing what we could find. Let me tell you what's going on. So these guys in the vehicles, let's get a little bit closer. As we're walking down Van Nuys, we go by a market liquor store, and there were two men outside with rather large rifles, weapons. At that point, I didn't know what they were, but they were large, and I told them, let's stop, because it occurred to me that these people were trying to protect their store. They're having a standoff here.
Oh my God.
Arguing about why they're not being allowed to break into the place. And next to them, there was this African-American couple, this woman and this man.
I was going to the store, which was the liquor store that I was seen at, just to pick up a couple of items. My husband was there with the owner. And then I went into the store and I came out.
And suddenly I see two vehicles drive behind her. And I see First it was 4 and then 6 young men, African-American men, get out. And they start going towards the gold store.
We're not doing this out here in this valley. You can take your back to South Central. We're not doing this. I think I said something similar to that on the last thing we did. You know, you want to come out here and tear up what we have. You guys have destroyed what you have already. You're angry because of what happened to George Floyd. And I understand that. I have the same anger that you have, but you're taking your anger out on the wrong person, or the wrong people, the wrong businesses. These businesses had nothing to do with the death of George Floyd.
Those guys, what's going on?
They were closed, bro.
I just don't want to see what we have torn apart when we don't have that much. We're still trying to fight to get a piece of the pie that is owed to us. So why tear it up?
It takes a lot of courage to do what she did. She really cared about this store. She really cared about her community, and she does. I wish the politicians in charge would care as much. But she doesn't have to run for re-election, so.
Here come the cops. Here comes the cops. They're trying to flag them down.
As I'm flagging down the police, and there's other people flagging down the police.
All right, here they come.
It's amazing how things happen and they become slow motion. Because as I saw the officers going past me towards this woman and this man, in the back of my mind I started thinking, oh please, no. No, 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 no.
No, they're fine.
They're good.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
gosh.
no.
Don't tell me that you're about to take this woman we have just interviewed who's trying to help protect the store and slam her against the door and put handcuffs on her. Please don't let this happen on TV.
Whoa.
They're protecting the store. Their looters are over there.
Stand down for a sec, please.
I heard Christina yelling like, the looters, they're right there. No, not them, and I'm thinking in my head, you know, what's going on over there?
This is unreal.
I get taken between the owner and a Hispanic gentleman and thrown up against the wall.
They're putting this lady in handcuffs.
Someone called my daughter and told her, your mom is on TV. They're finna take her to jail.
Listen to me, listen to me. The Cuban was coming out. And in retrospect, I would have liked to be a lot more calmer, but that's not me.
We're putting those in handcuffs right now.
No.
I was worried about these people. I thought they're gonna take them away. Someone's gonna get hurt. I was worried about the police officers not realizing we had armed suspects running off into the yonder. It was upsetting. It was rattling.
I think that was a shocking moment for so many people who, in some communities, thought this happens to us and there's no camera rolling. And so it was a moment caught on camera that they could say, we know what that looks like and feels like.
As I promised, we were able to track each other down. Monette, she's in one piece.
When I started talking to her and I realized that Monette had an incredible perspective from back in '92, and she was going through this again. She was just so eloquent explaining what it was like to go through both things as a woman in her position.
And I get it. I understand they tired. They wore out too. We've been worn out. 55, we tired too. The same thing, injustice y'all did to us years ago, and my fathers and my forefathers, you guys are doing to our young black men and our young black women, including Latinos.
And when she said, I get it. I get you're all tired, but we've been tired for 40 years. That line sticks in my head. If that doesn't say it all, I don't know what else does.
God bless you. Thank you. I know you want to go. No, you be careful, guys. She's okay, all right? She's all right, I promise. These are the people in the store trying to stop.
Point. All three of them. Okay,
We're putting those in handcuffs right now. Dude,
No,
they're
no.
not the looters. One person talk. Where's the looter? Where's the looter?
I can't blame police because they don't know the situation that they're walking into. And I want to make that very clear because perhaps understandably, but sadly, there is a very deep divide between law enforcement in certain sectors of the community that come to light whenever the littlest stress comes out. And no longer does either side respond to the other with any kind of civility, trust, or even an attempt to say, do I see his or her point?
There are a lot of issues, and I know law enforcement has one point of view, and I know community leaders have many different points of view.
There are deep systemic issues that go to the beginning of our country. I mean, black people were written into the Constitution as 3/5 of a person. They literally were not seen as equally human by the founders of this country. And those issues that start hundreds of years ago have still not totally been addressed. We still have massive issues when it comes to income inequality, education challenges.
In every single system in our society, there is structural discrimination.
We are just beginning to see where we could break through in certain areas in commerce and in entertainment and in social life and in criminal justice. Why is it that we are percentage-wise more incarcerated than whites given the population of a state? Why is it that we do any number of studies, I'm talking about in 2021, that blacks are stopped more by police than whites in the same areas?
Get on the ground. Please talk to me about what's going on.
There are implicit biases in so many different people that we as a society have not totally addressed. And I think that there's a feeling that the original sin of this country of slavery has still never really totally been addressed.
Policing in this country evolves from slave catching.
Today, I find there are two mentalities in policing. One is a mentality that says my job as a police officer is to protect and to serve, and that's a guardian mentality. The other is my job as a police officer is to kick butt and fight crime, and that's a warrior mentality.
Some people genuinely believe that cops are out there on patrol thinking, oh, who am I going to shoot today? And that is not the case at all. There's literally no cop that shows up to work and wants to go, you know what, I hope I get into a shooting today. That'd be a really good shift. Nobody does that. They're just as scared as the people they're pulling over. They don't know what's going to happen when they walk up to that window.
We're losing our black and brown men, to police brutality. So people are nervous, and rightfully so, rightfully so. People have gone pulled over for practically nothing and have lost their lives. This is a real thing in our community. This is something that we deal with every single day.
Last year, we had 1.8 million encounters with people throughout the Los Angeles area in our work. And the vast majority of those, we de-escalated and was able to work and support and provide meaningful service and make a difference in people's lives. Some of them spiraled and went out of control. 27 of them resulted in the use of deadly force.
I had to teach my sons as part of their driving lessons, how to handle a police stop 10 and 2, right, at all times, or with your hands out the window. That was a part of their driving lessons, as sure as I had to teach them how to apply the brake and when to hit the gas. And we've seen lately, even when people have done that, it doesn't immunize you completely from these kinds of incidents.
How can we, through our actions, ensure that this uniform, which is 151 years old, and this badge or version of it has been worn that entire time, it represents the ghosts, as Chief Beck would say. It represents the scars of the past. But it also represents, for those that have worn it, the valor and the service and the sacrifice. The 235 people who have lost their life in the service of the city. And I know that the vast majority of our men and women, that's what they live for a life of service and to make a difference.
I'm sorry on behalf of all the bad police officers out there that you've either experienced personally or indirectly. I'm sorry for the Derek Chauvins. I'm sorry for the other officers that took your trust and your honesty that you instilled in them and went out there and did something that they shouldn't have done. And so I know I can't go out there and repair what those officers have done to you. I know I can't go out there and bring George Floyd back or anybody else. But if you ever, need something from a police officer, we will always be there. We will not stop responding to you just because somebody flipped us off. We will always show up even though it may not be in the best interest of us and our families, but we will do it because that's what we signed up to do.
The overwhelming majority, I believe, of cops out there, of police officers, are good people who really are just trying to do their jobs. And I think the majority of people in various minority communities feel the police are necessary.
Communities of color, they love the police. The police officer is the only protection between them and the gang members. I would love to put 1,000 police officers just walking the streets. I submit to you that people love to interact with law enforcement. Let them get closer together. Police training needs to come up to the 21st century. Alternatives to the use of deadly force, those are key components because officers shoot first and then they're basically coached and protected by the system.
We made them essentially violence workers. We give them loaded guns with live ammunition, stun guns, mace, handcuffs, billy clubs. We've given them very limited tools of violence, and we put them out there on the streets to solve social problems, many of which don't require violence. But those are the tools they have. And rather than addressing those social problems directly ourselves, we let them turn to crime and then throw the police in to solve that problem.
Defund the police!
I think for law enforcement, it was a time to really look at policing in America and how it's viewed differently in different communities. How can we be better Americans, better citizens, better police officers? I think it shed a light on some true concerns in the community, and this was really a time to listen.